A tornado ripping across Florida and rain and flooding that just won't stop. More than a foot falling in a matter of hours in some places, overwhelming streets, neighborhoods with rising waters. And that storm system isn't done yet. I'm Gadi Schwartz, and this is Stay Tuned Now. And tonight, some of the images coming out of Florida look like something you'd expect after a hurricane. But this is just a monster storm system dumping so much rain that some are calling this a 1,000-year event. It's already rained more than 2 feet in some places, with another half a foot of rain expected through Friday night. And a lot of that is coming down so fast. Sarasota saw 8 inches of rain in just 3 hours yesterday, leading to scenes like this. All that nonstop rain is causing a mess of problems in the southeast today. Stranded cars everywhere through Florida, travel delays at airports and closures along the very busy I-95. Our team is tracking the severe weather tonight. NBC News meteorologist Bill Cairns is standing by with the forecast. But first, let's go to NBC News correspondent Sam Brock in Aventura, Florida. Now, Sam, before we get started here, I just got to shout you out, man, for some Hulk-level reporting out there. For those that missed his reporting early on with our friend Hallie Jackson, let me show you this video. The guy that you're seeing out there using his massive, like 6 foot, I don't know, 6 or 6'8" frame to beast mode that stuck SUV to dry land. Yes, that is our fearless Sam Brock. Sam, that guy is both super unlucky for all that water, but also lucked out that you were just standing right there. What happened next there?
Bro, first of all, 6'8" and beast mode. I don't think I've ever heard either one of those associated with me, but I appreciate that, Gadi. 6'5". Yeah, so the reality was I was standing out here right over my shoulder, where we're still watching people right now navigate this swamp and not having a lot of success with it. I did my report with Hallie, and, I thought we were done. It's like that poor guy got stuck in the middle of this pool, and he did, and I went to go talk to him thinking that they were done. He actually is from Haiti, speaks Haitian Creole, but not English, so I had no idea what I was doing communicating with him. But I did manage to get him to put basically his car neutral so I could push it. And unbeknownst to me, and I want to state unbeknownst to me, I was pushing this car all the way through the lot here to try to get him out. Unfortunately, the car itself, the engine will not start, so he is still stranded, just not here. He's away from the water and now closer to the exit to the mall. So that's the story there.
Wow, and you still got people just going by in that intersection, and it's one of those circumstances where, if it gets beyond the exhaust pipe, if you got something to show us, go ahead and show us, but it just seems like so many cars are stuck in the water.
People here are so brazen that the water has receded a little bit, Gadi, and I just saw someone drive through like 15 miles an hour. I am not kidding you, in his BMW, and he made it. This poor guy right here, unfortunately, is not as lucky. I don't know what happened. He tried to do it. You tried to make it across, and then what happened?
There goes the tow truck.
He took a risk. He took a risk. Yeah, he took a risk. There was a tow truck over. Oh, there it goes. That same tow truck was just arguing with another woman, Gadi, because she did not want to try to get over a median that you can't see because it's underwater right now. And he was peer pressuring her to move. And I guess he succeeded because now he's through there. But the bottom line is, don't try to drive through standing water. I know we all think we understand that, and then you see it. And the urge is so strong, but a lot of people in South Florida tonight are dealing with the ramifications of not making good decisions on that front.
Yeah, that dude with this taking a smoke break right there, proof positive. I guess what's the deal? Have people been caught off guard by this? Normally, this is the type of flooding that you see from like a hurricane that comes with a ton of warning. But it seems like there's a lot of people that might not be taking the amount of water that we're seeing very seriously at all. What is that behind you? What is that massive thing?
Right. So, some did not. I mean, I talked to people who are from South Florida, and they were like, yeah, I heard the warnings, but like, how bad could it be? If you have lived in this state for any period of time, it goes from being beautiful to absolutely torrential downpour, and that can last a while. Then it clears up and comes back typically. But you have this tropical system that's coming through right now, and you have, in some cases, I believe, Gadi, 2 to 3, 4+ inches of rain per hour. There's too much water coming down too quickly, and what ends up happening is because there's nowhere for it to go, we're basically at sea level here in many parts of Miami. The ground underneath it is limestone, which is porous, so there's a water table that's coming up. It's already wet underneath, and then you have all this rainfall coming down from above. The water has nowhere to escape, and so this does play out a lot in South Florida. But I do think in this case, you were looking at a foot plus of rain in some places. Hollywood, for example, which is not very far from where I am, North Dade, I'm in Aventura. This is a popular mall here. Obviously, a lot of people were trying to go shop before they realized that was not going to be a possibility. But it's normal for this area, but just so much in such a quick amount of time that it led to disastrous results. Although, thankfully, we are not aware, at least at this point, of any injuries.
And again, thankfully, you're out there with your 6'5" frame pushing cars out of the way. I know you probably have some more work to do. There's a bunch of cars that just went by. Sam Brock, thanks so much, brother.
Thanks, Gadi. Appreciate you.
And NBC News meteorologist Bill Cairns joins us now. Bill, this is wild stuff. This is looking, I don't know, it kind of looks like an omen on what kind of hurricane season we could have, or is it still too soon to tell?
I tell you what it is, Gadi. This is kind of like, a wake up, like how vulnerable Florida is. If you look at the state of Florida, it sticks straight down in between the Atlantic and the Gulf, extremely warm water, the most vulnerable, highly populated area maybe in the world that's susceptible to like hurricanes and floods like this. And, there's a reason why home insurance is like hard to come by in Florida, and how about all these autos? Probably thousands today got caught and stranded. And, a lot of those cars will probably end up back on the market. So be careful buying any used cars in Florida anytime soon, especially South Florida. So we still have 7 million people under flood watches. The warnings were just dropped. So for about 4 hours, we had a flash flood emergency for Miami and the Fort Lauderdale area. I saw at least 4 separate locations that picked up over a foot of rain today. This is on top of the rain they had yesterday. And so every day, when you get the ground saturated, even the sandy soil, tomorrow, it'll be even easier to get significant flooding if we get more heavy rain, which is possible. So the heavy rain has shifted. You notice that Fort Lauderdale northward, just showers. Still steady rains from Fort Lauderdale to Miami. All the really heavy stuff is down here in the Keys, around Key Largo, and down here in Alligator Alley. So this area is very swampy. We're not going to see significant flooding out of this. We'll have to wait and see if some of this tries to rebuild northwards later tonight. It does look like tomorrow some of that could, because additional rainfall over the next 3 days, we still could get another 3 to 4 inches of rain. This is on top of the foot plus that we've already received in this area. And I will include Fort Myers, Sarasota, and areas to Naples. You also could have additional flooding. So we're not completely done with this yet, Gadi, but it does make you wonder and worry. We haven't even had a tropical storm or hurricane yet, but let's hope none head to Florida's way.
Yeah, and I know while this is going on, there is a pretty scorching heat wave happening out here in the West. Any relation to what we're seeing happen in the East?
Yeah, that was really just more like a tropical wave down in areas of the South Florida. What's happening in the West is it's summer now. So you get these big ridges that build. Usually you're going to have somewhere in the country that's exceptionally hot, and that's the case right now. I mean, look at Phoenix again, 111 degrees. Vegas at this hour is 101. Fresno's at 101. Even Reno at 97 is pretty incredibly warm. So what's going to shift and change in the next couple of days is that the West is going to begin to slowly cool off, and all of the heat spreading across the country. Wichita tomorrow 100, St. Louis at 96 degrees. And by the time we get to Friday, it gets a little toasty in areas of the South too. Atlanta 95, Raleigh 97, a little warm D.C. to New York, but we'll talk more about them next week. That's who's going to get it really bad. So as we head through this weekend, the developing story will be watch what happens in the Ohio Valley, Gadi. That's going to be the next region that we're going to break record highs.
Yikes. And, Bill, we also saw some tornado reports in Florida. We saw that video at the top of the show. I know there's talk of Tornado Alley possibly shifting east, but Florida, it doesn't get more east than that, right? Is this a part of that?
This is not. This was more like when you get tropical waves and, especially hurricanes and tropical storms, we can get tornadoes with those. So what we saw today was just this tropical disturbance. That's this area that we've been tracking, and the Hurricane Center is actually tracking it. They said there's a 20% chance it develops up the southeast coast, and that's why we had the heavy rain and also that, tornado. There is another area that could develop, 30% chance. This one would more or less head towards Mexico in the next couple of days. And then what you were talking about, Gadi, was the study that's been done is typically, when I was growing up as a kid, we referred to Tornado Alley as Kansas, Oklahoma, into Texas. But what we've been tracking over the last 3 decades is that we're seeing an increase in tornadoes in areas of like Tennessee, Mississippi, and a little lower tornadoes in what we used to call Tornado Alley.
Bill Cairns, thank you so much.
Sure.
Now, turning now to this story, one of the largest Protestant denominations in the United States has just voted to oppose in vitro fertilization. Today, at their annual meeting in Indiana, more than 10,000 Southern Baptists decided that IVF should be condemned, asking members to, quote, reaffirm the unconditional value and right to life of every human being, including those in an embryonic stage. They argue that IVF produces more embryos and can be implanted, so the ones that are destroyed in their eyes are losses of human life. But that did not pass unanimously. The audience heard emotional testimonies from people within the faith who support the fertility treatment. Southern Baptists have over 14 million members and are often looked at as a barometer on how evangelicals fall on hot topics. Meanwhile, in Washington, lawmakers are going to be voting on a Democratic-led IVF bill tomorrow. If it passes, the bill would protect access to IVF nationwide. Today, Senate Dems blocked a competing bill from Republicans, saying it did not go far enough to protect IVF access. And over on Capitol Hill today, the Republican-led House voted to hold Attorney General Merrick Garland in contempt of Congress. And this is all because Garland refused to hand over audio recordings of President Joe Biden's interview with special counsel Robert Hur. Now, that was the interview when Biden's age and memory really came under fire, when the special counsel was investigating how he handled classified documents. And Hur basically said that a jury would sympathize with Biden as, quote, an elderly man with poor memory. Eventually, Hur did not prosecute Biden. Let's bring in NBC's Julie Sirkin to break all this down for us. Julie, can you just really quickly remind us why they can't have those recordings?
Well, it's plain and simple here, Gadi. It's because the White House had asserted executive privilege over those tapes. That means the Department of Justice can't just go turning those tapes over to anyone who requests them, even if it's Congress. Now, the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, certainly backs that move by the Biden administration to assert executive privilege over those tapes. Remember why they're doing so in the first place. It's because they feel like Republicans could maybe distort the audio, could stitch it in a way that doesn't represent reality. That's at least what Garland is saying. He also said when he testified before the House Judiciary Committee a couple of weeks ago that, look, maybe witnesses in the future won't agree to sit down with us in our investigations like the president has with the special counsel if they know we're just going to turn over these tapes willy-nilly no matter what.
Interesting. And today's contempt vote, is this kind of like the whole Bill Barr and Eric Holder contempt political sagas of the past? And what's Garland saying?
Yeah, look, it's pretty simple. It's pretty similar to those prosecutions that the House tried to take with Bill Barr under President Trump, with Eric Holder under President Obama. And look, Republicans that I spoke to acknowledged that it's very unlikely that this contempt resolution passing results in the prosecution and any kind of criminal liability for the Attorney General, in large part because, look, the people that would be prosecuting this is the DOJ that Merrick Garland oversees. And certainly it's unprecedented for them to go that far, but it's not unprecedented, as you mentioned, for Republicans, for Democrats as well, to use their political power up here to try and hold people that they subpoena, that they want to hear from, that they want something from, in contempt of Congress if they fail to do so. And that is why you saw that vote on the floor today. I also want to read you a statement from Attorney General Merrick Garland responding to this. He put it out very quickly. He said in part, quote, "It is deeply disappointing that this House of Representatives have turned a series congressional authority into a partisan weapon. Today's vote," Garland says, "disregards the constitutional separation of powers, the Justice Department's need to protect its investigations, and the substantial amount of information we have provided to the committees." Of course, Garland is talking about there the transcript that they have provided the committees and put out in public in full, Gadi.
And speaking of partisanship, I mean, this is all coming as Donald Trump is expected to visit Capitol Hill tomorrow, right? Any idea what that's going to be like?
Yeah, oh boy, it's the former president's first visit to this general capital area pretty much since he was in the White House. It's been quite a long time since we've seen Trump anywhere near the Capitol. Now, he's not going to be in this building itself, but he will be nearby. He'll be meeting with House Republicans first in the morning, his allies, a lot of the people who have his back, who support him. And then later in the day, he'll be meeting with Senate Republicans over at another location there that they use for campaign purposes. Now, the interesting thing is going to be who doesn't show show up to these meetings, right? Of course, we know in the Senate, at least, that Mitch McConnell, the Republican leader who has had a very tense relationship with Trump over the years, he is planning to attend. This is going to be the first time the two are seeing each other face to face, even talking in many years, certainly since Trump was in the White House. We also know, for example, that Senator Lisa Murkowski had said she's not planning to attend. So that'll be interesting to see.
To be a fly on the wall. Julie, thank you very much. And tonight, 8 men with suspected ties to ISIS are now in U.S. custody. A high-profile sting operation led to their arrests in New York, Los Angeles, and Philly. 3 sources are telling NBC News, and all of the men were from Tajikistan, and they came into the United States by crossing the southern border. Meanwhile, it's been just over a week since President Biden signed an executive order limiting asylum requests. NBC News Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley has the latest.
Tonight, new evidence migrants who cross the border illegally are still being released into the U.S. by border agents, 1 week after President Biden signed an executive action suspending their entry.
If they choose to come without permission and against the law, they'll be restricted from receiving asylum and staying in the United States.
But NBC News has learned Border Patrol is still releasing many migrants into the U.S. who crossed illegally to pursue asylum claims. A senior DHS official tells NBC News those releases have dropped by more than half, but are still happening because agents don't have enough space to detain the large numbers of arriving migrants. An internal memo to Border Patrol agents in San Diego directs agents there to release migrants into the United States unless they are from these 8 countries. Overall, illegal border crossings under the new policy are still high, but have dropped from 4,000 to 3,000 per day, DHS sources tell us. President Biden signed the executive action after fierce criticism of his handling of the border, with a record nearly 10 million migrants entering the U.S. since he took office. But the Border Patrol union says the president's new action is not tough enough.
It's status quo. Things have not changed. The executive order has not made any significant impact as it relates to the illegal border crossings.
We suffer a lot just to get here, says this Guatemalan woman waiting in Mexico to cross. And late today, immigration advocates suing, saying the asylum restrictions go too far.
This ban is patently illegal. The Trump administration enacted a near identical asylum ban. We sued over that. We won. We hope to win again.
Gadi, a senior DHS official says it's too soon to judge the new policy's effectiveness. And they argue it's because they need more help from Congress to increase immigrant detention and do more deportation flights. But Gadi, I have to say, they may never get that help. It doesn't seem like Congress has anything on the horizon that's going to give them that funding. Of course, they didn't get the bipartisan Senate bill that they wanted earlier this year. And so it looks like it might only be a matter of time till those border numbers start to come back up. And Border Patrol will again have to release migrants that they can't deport fast enough. It's simply a matter of space and also of countries that are reluctant to take migrants back. Countries like China, places in the Eastern Hemisphere, Africa, places that are really hard to deport migrants to. And that in those cases, and we're already seeing exceptions being made now, particularly in San Diego, those are the migrants who are being released. So it's something to watch, particularly as the Biden administration will really look to this action, hang their hats on it, and say, when it comes to the election, this is the major step they did, which did take a large step away from what a lot of people might have expected the president to do when it came to immigration, particularly when he was running for the presidency earlier. We should also point out that ACLU thinks that they could win this lawsuit. They think that they have a winning case here because they sued the Trump administration and over a similar policy, and they won there. So if this gets enjoined, it could be that really this is all a moot point. They won't need more resources, and they'll just have to return to exactly what they were doing before the order. Certainly something to watch, particularly as immigration continues to be a flashpoint this election year.
Hey, welcome back. The world of basketball lost a legend today. More on that in just a minute. But first, here are some of the stories happening out west that we're following right now. An Arizona man is charged with planning to go on a rampage at a Bad Bunny concert in May. Now, prosecutors say his goal was to start a race war ahead of the 2024 election. The indictment says the man shared his plan with 2 undercover FBI agents, thinking they shared his extreme beliefs. And a construction company was awarded a $430,000 emergency bid to build a detour around Teton Pass. And this comes just days after that road collapsed. The Wyoming Department of Transportation says that they are hoping to have that detour ready within the next 2 weeks. And San Francisco declared itself a sanctuary city for transgender and gender nonconforming people today, becoming one of the first major cities in the country to do so. San Francisco follows Sacramento and West Hollywood in hopes of providing a place of safety for the gender-affirming community. Yeah, welcome back. Russian warships are showing up in Cuba. We're going to check in with NBC's Ed Augustine for more on that in just a second. But first, let's take a quick look around the world. Ukraine says it managed to shoot down a bunch of Russian missiles and a barrage of drones overnight in Kiev. Air defense systems from the U.S. and other allies were key in that defense, and Ukraine just got a refreshed inventory of anti-aircraft supplies after struggling for months. And the European Commission just announced tariffs on imported Chinese electric cars that could start next month. It comes at a pretty bad time as there's a slow demand for EVs in China with prices falling. Chinese automakers there might have to cough up on a couple of billions in euros in extra costs. And Pope Francis is in hot water again. He's being accused of using a homophobic slur, according to the Italian news agency The Anza. He reportedly said the same anti-gay slur he used last month in a closed-door meeting with priests in Rome. The Vatican did not directly address the allegation, but instead pointed to a statement on the Tuesday meeting with priests. And dozens of firefighters battled a blaze at a cookware factory in Athens, Greece. You can see some massive plumes of black smoke here fill the air. Now, it's unclear what caused that fire, but apparently it might have been some sort of explosion, according to a state broadcaster. There were no immediate reports of people trapped inside. And ceasefire negotiations between Israel and Hamas are still at a standstill, with the U.S. saying today that some of the demands Hamas is making are unacceptable.
Hamas could have answered with a single word: yes. Instead, Hamas waited nearly 2 weeks and then proposed more changes, a number of which go beyond positions that it previously taken and accepted.
And that's Secretary of State Antony Blinken still in the Middle East, where he is trying to advance a ceasefire deal between the two parties with the help of Qatar. Meanwhile, violence is escalating between Israel and Iran-backed Hezbollah. The militia group fired over 100 rockets at Israel today after Israel said it killed a Hezbollah commander yesterday. NBC's Matt Bradley has more.
Well, we heard from Secretary of State Antony Blinken today in Doha after he consulted and held a press conference with the Prime Minister of Qatar, who has been crucial as an intermediary in these ongoing negotiations. This is Antony Blinken's 8th trip to the region in as many months, and you could almost hear how exasperated he was. He put the whole burden on finishing this deal on Hamas, saying that Hamas could have said yes to the deal, but instead they waited for 2 weeks, and now they have kind of notes. They have different demands that they want, and demands that Antony Blinken said exceed, or that U.S. officials have said, have exceeded even the ones they had before. Well, Hamas has responded. Tahir al-Nono, who's one of the senior Hamas officials, said that Hamas has always been consistent in their demands. And in fact, NBC News got word of that as well, that their demands are changing the timeline by which Israel would be withdrawing completely from the Gaza Strip and ending its assault on the Gaza Strip once and for all. To be fair, that always has been Hamas's position. They have always said that they will not ink a deal that has no stipulation for the final end to the conflict and the full withdrawal of Israeli forces. Interestingly, we also heard from the Forum of Families, who represents the families of the hostages who are still in the Gaza Strip. There's thought to be some 80 of them who are still alive. They looked upon Hamas's response with optimism. They said that it was heading in the right direction. But Benjamin Netanyahu and his government are going to be huddling tonight, trying to come up with the response. Again, the fact that they're still discussing it kind of undermines what Blinken was saying, that Israel has been totally on board from the beginning. So the two sides are quite close, closer than they've been ever since the last deal in November. But it looks like there's still a ways to go before an agreement.
And in Cuba today, a very unusual scene, kind of an eerie scene. Take a look at this. This right here is a nuclear-powered Russian submarine surfacing in a Cuban port, along with 4 Russian warships that have pulled in as part of some planned military exercises nearby. The U.S. State Department says it's routine for Russian ships to temporarily stop in Cuban ports, but that sub, known as Kazan, is out of the ordinary for a few reasons. Russian reports say the submarine carries new hypersonic missiles that could reach the U.S. from Havana in seconds. Cuba says The ships have no nuclear weapons, and U.S. officials seem to be saying the same thing. Now, a little earlier, according to the Miami Herald, open-source satellite data placed the Russian warships just 26 nautical miles from Key Largo, Florida, before they pulled into Havana this morning. NBC's Ed Augustine joins us now from Havana. Ed, thanks so much for being with us. I know that they say that this is routine, but given the timing, the war in Ukraine, the G7 summit, should people in the U.S. be concerned at all?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head, Gadi, by saying that in a sense it's routine. Of course, Cuba and Russia, very long-time allies going back to Soviet times. On the other hand, the war in Ukraine is raging. And within that, tensions have ratcheted up these last couple of weeks since the Biden administration said that Ukraine could use some of the U.S. weapons to hit Russian targets. And Vladimir Putin has responded saying that Russia might respond in kind with their allies. So I think the timing is key. And also, this is the first time since the war in Ukraine that we've seen a Russian naval deployment in Cuba. Interestingly, while the Russians are playing it up, while the Russians were doing naval exercises on their way here along the Atlantic, firing huge artillery guns, both the Cubans and the Biden administration have been playing it down. The Cuban government has been emphasizing that there's no nukes, no nuclear weapons on board. Cuba's a signatory to a non-proliferation treaty dating back to the 60s, so that would be impossible, they say. And also, interestingly, the Pentagon today, again, saying that this is not a threat to U.S. national security. It's not a danger, but that it is noteworthy.
Yeah, and maybe not a threat or a danger, as they say, but definitely a very powerful image. I got to ask, what kind of message does this seem to send to Russia's allies? Is this a propaganda play?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a propaganda play. The military analyst that I was speaking to earlier today said that the core of the Russian message is the following to the Americans. Look, you can make our lives misery in what we see as our sphere of influence. Look, you can pull off huge war games and drills in the Ukraine with over 100 tanks and 90,000 soldiers that took place last month. But we can still be a nuisance to you. We can still get into your backyard and be in a country that's been a thorn in your side, haven't been able to get rid of this government for many, many decades, and we can project power internationally. I think that's what Russia's trying to tell the Americans, you know, tit for tat. You were saying eerie, I'd say poignant, and I think many Cubans are seeing that in the same place. You know, the place where the nuclear sub is docked, in that exact same dock 5 years ago, there were U.S. cruise ships. American tourists coming off those cruise ships, most of them, or many of them, I should say, for the first time in Havana, pumping money into the island's economy. How much things have changed, that the water sloshing up and down now isn't against American cruise ships bringing tourists, but is against a nuclear-powered sub. What a strange world we live in.
Yeah, what a historical juxtaposition there. Speaking of our backyard, I mean, you're in Havana. We're just seeing video. It seemed like there was somebody that was watching wearing somewhat of an American flag. I got to ask, what are U.S.-Cuba relations like right now out there on the street?
Well, for me, it's hard to meet a Cuban that isn't pro-U.S. in terms of loving the American people that they've met, loving American culture, American films. Baseball here is the national sport. I can't stand it, but Cubans love it. And so there's a whole load of cultural affinity and sporting affinity, but that's not mirrored at the political level. Political relations were good, icy but good. Almost 10 years ago now, under the Obama administration, when that administration took the historic move to, as they'd say it, bring Cuba in from the cold and to start normalizing the relations with Cuba and softening that decade-long embargo. Over the last 5 years, we've seen first the Trump administration and now the Biden administration ratchet up U.S. sanctions on Cuba to unprecedented levels. That's making the Cubans feel that the Cuban government feel that the U.S. is an enemy, and it's pushing them closely, most analysts say, to Russia.
You've got such a finger on the pulse there in Cuba. Ed, thank you so much for being with us tonight. And coming up, a twist in an already strange case. The lawyer for rapper Young Thug sentenced to jail time himself. Details on a tense courtroom back and forth that ended up with him being held in contempt. And now there is another twist in that case that we're going to tell you about. That is all straight ahead, so stay tuned. Hey, welcome back. And here are some of the other headlines we're watching tonight. 2 men have been arrested for allegedly shooting 5 people in Memphis yesterday. The victims, which include 4 kids, are still in critical condition. Now, the shooting took place at an interstate there, and both suspects are now facing attempted murder charges. And Oklahoma Supreme Court dismissed a lawsuit brought by survivors of the Tulsa race massacre. They upheld a lower court ruling, and the 2 remaining survivors of the 1921 massacre were seeking reparations, arguing the actions of that mob still affect the city today. We've got some new inflation numbers, and it looks like things are starting to cool down, but not enough to convince the Federal Reserve to cut high interest rates this year, with Fed Chair Jerome Powell saying that it's probably going to take a little longer for that to happen. And 8 SpaceX workers are suing the company and Elon Musk, saying that they were illegally fired for raising concerns about alleged sexual harassment. The complaint alleges Musk personally ordered their terminations. SpaceX has denied any wrongdoing. And former pharmaceutical executive Martin Shkreli is being sued by the owner of the one-of-a-kind Wu-Tang album for making a copy of the album and playing it online without permission. Now, Shkreli used to own that album. He bought it back in 2015 for $2 million, but when he was convicted of committing securities fraud in 2017 and sent to prison, he had to forfeit his assets, which included that Wu-Tang album, that album was later bought by a bunch of crypto bros who are now suing him. And rapper Young Thug is on trial, but his lawyer tried to call out the judge in the case for a conversation he had with the prosecution outside the court, and he ended up being found in contempt and ordered to spend the next 10 weekends in jail. The trial against Jeffrey Williams, the Grammy-winning rapper's real name, has been dragging on with no end in sight. So let's bring in NBC News correspondent Adrian Broadus. Adrian, okay, so back up here. A quick second. I'm seeing some breaking news coming out of this case. But first, set the table here. What are the charges that Young Thug is facing?
Yeah, we'll get to that breaking news in just a moment, Gadi, in regards to his attorney. But let's rewind and bring our viewers up to speed. We're talking about Young Thug, whose real name is Jeffrey Williams. He's a Grammy Award-winning rapper based in Atlanta. His rise to fame dates back to 2010. He's worked with artists like Drake, Chris Brown, and Gunna. He's facing some serious charges here, though, under Georgia's RICO Act. So we're talking about racketeering. And this stems from, and we'll look big picture here, at an indictment that names Williams as well as some others who he says are a part of his record label, YSL. But prosecutors allege that record label is a street gang. Gadi?
Okay, so why was his lawyer found in contempt? And what are we seeing that just happened at the Supreme Court?
So just moments ago, we learned that his lawyer will not have to report to jail on this Friday. It's unclear if his attorney, Brian Steele, will still be required to spend 20 days in jail over the course of 10 weekends in Fulton County. So why is his attorney facing jail time? It's all because he challenged the chief judge in court on Monday about an alleged meeting between the judge, prosecutors, and a key witness. Now, I've been speaking with legal experts who have been following this case since the beginning, and they've watched the trial, which started, by the way, back in November of 2023. They say if this alleged meeting happened, the judge never should have allowed it without the presence of the defense. So the big question now, what happens moving forward? Listen in.
What it means for the case moving forward is that the defense is going to be impaired. When we're in long trials, we work on the weekends. We work at night. If he's in jail on the weekends, he's not going to be able to give Young Thug an adequate defense.
In fact, he requested from the judge that if he was going to incarcerate him over the weekends, that he be incarcerated in the same cell with Young Thug so that they could discuss the trial. But that doesn't mean he's going to have access to evidence, exhibits, the law books.
So once again, another twist in this case that took nearly 10 months to seat jurors, Gadi.
10 months to seat jurors? I know we said that this case seems to be dragging on, but seriously, like this is like the longest criminal case in the state's history, right? How is this contempt charge going to add to that timeline?
Yeah, it is, as of right now on record, the longest criminal case in Georgia's history. We will see what this charge does. The trial continued this week. Keep in mind, it's not just Young Thug or Williams who is facing trial. There are other co-defendants, and representing his defense attorney, Brian Steele, is a name many of you have likely heard. We're talking about Ashley Merchant, and you may recognize that name because she represents one of the co-defendants in the Trump RICO case happening in the same courthouse. Gadi?
Yeah, oh, what a collision of worlds there. Adrian Broadus, thank you so much. Meanwhile, out here on the West Coast, earthquakes are a fact of life, and the big one is always looming, and we think about it from time to time, thinking, when is it going to happen? Most importantly, how strong is it going to be?
The southernmost section of the San Andreas Fault has built up enough tectonic strain to produce a major earthquake.
Oh my gosh, we're having an earthquake. Oh my goodness.
The Bay Area preparing for the next big one.
The entire upper deck of the Cypress structure has collapsed.
These types of quakes are a double whammy because they also generate huge tsunami waves.
A mega tsunami in the Pacific Northwest. It could be worse than predicted.
All right, so the Pacific Ocean's Ring of Fire has produced dozens of magnitude 8 earthquakes or stronger in the last century. But the West Coast remains eerily quiet in terms of anything that strong, and maybe the closest we've come. In 1989, the Loma Prieta earthquake that killed dozens of people caused widespread destruction in the Bay Area. That quake registered at a 6.9 on the Richter scale. Researchers say the Pacific Northwest could experience something 100 times stronger. Now there's a new study mapping out the Cascadia subduction zone that's giving the clearest picture yet into this potential mega quake. Joining us now is a co-author of that report, Harold Tobin. He's the director of the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network. Harold, thanks so much for being with us. Based on what you've learned, are you more or less concerned about the big one, and how strong are we talking here?
Yeah, we were concerned about the big one, and what we've done is just sort of really brought into focus and sharpened up our image of that fault tremendously with this new study. I'm not more or less concerned so much, but recognize now that there's parts of the Pacific Northwest that might be where more strain is building up and parts where there's less. And it's answering some questions for us about how this fault might be broken up into segments. So yes, it's the really big one. In fact, bigger than any San Andreas Fault earthquake could be. But we have new insight into that.
The 2011 earthquake that struck Japan, that saw that huge tsunami, that was a magnitude 9. I know that here down in Los Angeles, we've been told that the San Andreas can't rip at a magnitude 9. If something that strong struck the Pacific Northwest, is that a possibility? And what could happen to cities like Seattle?
Yeah, if the Cascadia subduction zone has the earthquake that we anticipate is possible and has happened before, it's at the magnitude 9 kind of scale, just as big as Japan in 2011 and the largest earthquakes we've ever seen on this planet. It hasn't happened apparently since the year 1700, but we are certain that something like that can happen again in the future.
Well, since the 1700s, and then you just think of all the pressure that may be continuing to build there. I know that there's no such thing as predicting an earthquake specifically, but how does this new mapping data improve warning systems?
Yeah, what it does for us is it really helps us forecast what the scenarios are that are most likely in the next earthquake that might happen. And that's really important because it determines the level of ground shaking we might experience in the population centers like Seattle and Portland. It also really helps us determine where the tsunami impacts are the largest. And that's really, in some ways, the most dangerous part of an offshore earthquake like the Cascadia subduction zone. It's the tsunami more than the ground shaking that we have to worry about, unlike perhaps a San Andreas Fault earthquake.
Now, I mean, we worry so much down here about the San Andreas Fault, and I want to ask you, How far away do you think we are from having really good data, a really good mapping system, and an early warning system that gives us ample time? And we're talking a matter of years, decades here, because the big one is still looming.
Yeah, I'm sorry to say that the short-term prediction, like saying, okay, it's going to happen in the next week or two or hour or two even, is just not there. We do have Shake Alert. You've probably heard about it, the earthquake early warning system, and notify your phone when an earthquake has just begun, and maybe you have 20 seconds, 30 seconds, and so on. Same is true in the Northwest. But that longer-term forecasting comes into more and more focus all the time, so we know at least where they're likely to occur.
Well, hopefully sooner than later. Professor, thank you for joining us tonight. And that does it for us tonight. I'm Gadi Schwartz. We're going to see you here tomorrow, but until then, stay tuned out.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.